Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Unfortunately, today is the final podcast on a Sunday. Final post-game podcast, I should say. Not the final podcast. I'll still be doing a few podcasts, 3 podcasts a week, maybe 4 some weeks, maybe, I don't know. We'll be out plenty of things to keep you up to date on. Unfortunately, it is the final post-game show podcast of the 23-24 season, as the Browns, in embarrassing fashion, have been eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, obviously, it was not unreasonable to think the Texans could win this game. They were only a 2-point underdog, and they were at home. But I don't think there's anybody that saw this game ending up this way, even if you're the most diehard Texans fan, if there is such a thing. 45-14 is the final. The Texans easily dispatch of the Browns, pulling away in the second half. A lot to get to in this game. Very little of it good. Really none of it good. As we listen, we'll have time to look back and discuss what this season was. But today, it's all about this game. And that's all coming up right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the Bet Rivers Network.
Get extra value this football season with Bet Rivers Squares. Win up to $10,000 in bonus money. Bet $10 in same-game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square. The Browns all season did things that made no sense. They won 11 games despite leading the league in turnovers. They won 11 games despite starting 5 different quarterbacks. They won 11 games despite not really being able to run the ball consistently. They won 11 games with a boatload of injuries. But in the end, when it mattered the most, with the playoffs, with the season on the line, the Browns completely shit the bed. It's that simple. They played their worst game of the year. They were a complete disgrace in this game. There's nothing positive I could say about I got a couple of positive things to say. And again, probably on Tuesday when I do my next podcast, I'll be in a better mood and I could recap the season, and there's plenty of positives on the season. But in terms of this game, I'll start with the positives because there's almost none. David Njoku had a good game, 7 catches, 93 yards, nice big play with Harrison Bryant, 4 for 65, and I thought David Bell had a really nice day. Defensively, JOK was fantastic. 9 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss. There was another play where he missed a tackle in the backfield, but it led to another tackle for loss. He was sensational. Everybody else sucked in this game. Every single player on the Browns defense gets a thumbs down besides JOK. 0 other exceptions. The secondary, embarrassing. The defensive line, embarrassing. They got no pressure at all. Myles Garrett did nothing. Listen, the defensive player of the year is decided in the regular season, and he's certainly a candidate for it, but he did not play great down the stretch, and he was useless in this game. He did nothing. Absolutely nothing. He was a non-factor. The Browns got their ass kicked on both sides of the ball. All season, we've talked about the line of scrimmage, right? The Browns have dominated on the line of scrimmage on defense. They have held their own on the line of scrimmage on offense. In this game, the Houston Texans kicked their ass on both sides of the ball. I did not think the Texans were this good. I knew they were good. I respected C.J. Stroud, but I thought he had a lot to prove since he hadn't beaten a lot of good teams, and he completely embarrassed the Browns defense. They were down 24-14 at the half. Could have easily been 35. CJ's one bad pass in the first half. He overthrew a receiver, which would have been an easy touchdown. And their tight end, Dalton Schultz, also dropped one on the first drive. Maybe he catches that. Maybe they score a touchdown instead. Who knows? Nico Collins, I said this guy's very good, not great. Well, he's looked great lately. I got to give him more credit. He was outstanding, 6 for 96 and a touchdown. And remember, the game was over the Texans only had the ball once in the second half before the game was over. So the numbers that the Texans put up are not eye-popping offensively, but that's because that's it. They shut it down. The game was over. The first half, the defense was a disgrace, In the second half, Flacco throws 2 pick sixes. And, at halftime, I really thought the Browns still had a chance in this game. I was like, well, they played as bad as you can play, and they're still in it. They're only down 10, and they get the job done. The defense, which had been mostly awful in the first half, did a good job in the first drive of the second half. They hold the Texans to a punt. The Browns get the ball. They're down only 10 points. They're moving the ball. They got a first down at the Texan 34. You're almost in field goal range already to make it a one-possession game. And Flacco just, I don't know what he was doing. On the broadcast, they were saying he was trying to throw it away. It was a terrible decision. He should have taken a sack. The ball just lofted in the air, and Nelson picked it off, ran it 82 yards. The Browns get the ball back. Another pick six by Flacco on a terrible throw. He didn't see the defender, and that was it. I mean, the first pick six was it. Let's face it. I mean, the Browns, the offense had a couple of nice drives in the first half, but every time, they stopped the Texans to a field goal, so it's 3-0. Browns had a great 6-play drive, a big completion down the field to start it to David Njoku for 45 yards. Kareem Hunt into the end zone. Texans came right back, 4 plays, touchdown. Then the Browns come back, 6 plays, touchdown. And Kareem Hunt up the middle on a pass from a shovel pass from Joe Flacco. And then a 76-yard touchdown pass to, what's his name, Brevin Jordan, who just a tight end blows away the defense. Nobody can tackle, and that was it. And it was over at 17-14. We didn't know it at the time, but that was it. Browns got it back. They went backwards. They had the punt, and they never did anything after that. Never scored again. I mean, this is a historically bad performance. Everybody gets blamed. I love Kevin Stefanski. I would give him an extension this offseason, but I got nothing good to say about him for this game. He didn't cost them the game, but the team quit. I mean, the team quit after that. They want to say they had no chance. I don't know, show some fight. They didn't. Jim Schwartz, we lauded him all year. He fell on his face. The whole defense sucked. It was a disgrace. Now, there are a couple of bad calls early in this game. There should have been a pass interference on that throw to Njoku. And that was a bad miss. I thought there should have been a personal foul on the hit on Flacco as he jumped to slide. I know my man Mikey McNugget said he didn't think it was he thought they got it right. But the Browns also got a break on. There was a holding call on a Devin Singletary run. That was a bad call. They didn't lose this game because of the officials. They didn't really lose this game because of the coaches, although you can criticize Jim Schwartz and Stefanski. Completely fair. They lost this game because they played like shit. That's it. Across the board, nobody played well enough. Joe Flacco's 300 yards is meaningless. Much of that in garbage time. They couldn't run the ball. 20 carries for 56 yards, including garbage time. They did nothing. And the defense was this team. We all believed in them going into the playoffs because we all believed they had a great defense. And it turned out they were fraudulent. And I don't want to hear about injuries in this game because the only guy they didn't have on defense was Grant Delpit. Everybody else played, and Anthony Walker. But every team's got a couple of injuries. You want to make an excuse on the offense, I could buy that. But on the defense, no excuse. This is the healthiest the defense has been in a couple of months. And they were absolute trash, absolute garbage. No excuse for how poorly they played. They got no sacks in this game. They only hit C.J. Stroud once. Meanwhile, the Texans defense was killing the Browns. Killing them. Will Anderson, the rookie, who they got as part of the Deshaun Watson trade. Well, they used the pick from the Deshaun Watson trade to trade up and get him. The guy was all over the place. He was making big plays. Desmond King, Blake Cashman, Christian Harris, who got hurt and then came back in. I can't name you anybody. I got JOK, that's it. Nobody else showed up. The Browns had 5 tackles for a loss, 4 by JOK, 1 by Dalvin Tomlinson that he got because JOK slowed the running back down. Everybody else on this defense was awful. The secondary was embarrassing. Juan Thornhill stinks. He was doing a lot of talking before the season. He certainly didn't back it up with his play. Greg Newsome was awful. He got torched all day long. He was just absolutely horrendous. And I've given a lot of love to Ronnie Hickman. He was terrible in this game. Martin Emerson, terrible. Myles Garrett, awful. Dalvin Tomlinson, no impact. Shelby Harris did nothing. Nothing. Jordan Elliott, the only time I heard his name mentioned was when he committed a penalty. And he knocked the ball down when Myles Garrett got the one pressure the entire game. Thornhill drops a potential interception. It was just a disgraceful performance. The Browns did not come to play. You've got, the defense was hideous. The offense had two good back-to-back drives on their second and third possessions, and then they were hideous the rest of the way. The pick sixes were both awful throws. And what was a fun, exciting, enjoyable season ends as bad as it possibly could. As bad. I mean, you cannot play worse in a playoff game than the Browns did today. You can't. They completely no-showed, nearly across the board. Who would have guessed that J.O.K., who looked like the worst player on the Browns last year, would be the only defensive player to show up for this game? And now to the long winter we go, and the long spring. Later in the week, we'll talk about, is there positives you can take from the season? Because there are. I just don't want to talk about them today. We'll talk about the plan for the offseason. We'll talk about our faith in Deshaun Watson. Do we have it? Flacco was lightning in a bottle. That lightning ran out today. His great play, and he did a great job for the Browns. A great job. No way he could have expected him to play any better, but he peed down his leg when the Browns were still in it. As bad as the defense played, they had a chance, 24-14. They had the ball on the Texans side of the field, and he peed down his leg. And that was it. That pick six from the Texans' 30-something yard line, that was the game. Instead of scoring at least three there, you give up a pick six, you're down 3 scores, game over. Game over. I saw some people, criticizing Stefanski for not going for it at the end of the first half. You could make that argument. It was a 3rd and 19. He probably should have been aggressive there, and now I'm thinking about it. Some people were criticizing him for going for it on 4th down when they were down 17. That's ridiculous. You're down 3 scores late in the 3rd quarter. Your defense is playing like crap. It was 4th and 2. It wasn't 4th and 10. That was the right call. It didn't work. Nothing worked. Everything the Browns did went outside of those 2 quick drives for their first 2 touchdowns. Everything else they did in this game was terrible. The defense, which we thought could carry this team to, I can't believe I picked this team to go to the Super Bowl. Well, I didn't. G. Bush and Jason did. I picked them to go to the AFC Championship game. And it feels laughable right now. Kudos to the Texans. They deserve credit. The Browns deserve to get crushed, but the Texans deserve credit. They played great both sides of the ball. After today, it feels like D'Amico Ryan should be coach of the year. I don't know if he'll win or not. But the Browns were disgusting in this game. There's no other way to put it. It was an embarrassing effort. And there's work that needs to be done. Right? There's a lot of things, and we'll get into them, a lot of things that need to be done this offseason. They need to get some more talent around Deshaun Watson. And next year feels like the last chance to prove that trade is not an all-time bad trade, because right now, that trade looks like an all-time bad trade. The Texans as an organization are in a million times better shape than the Cleveland Browns are right now. And even before this game, it's not just because they lost this game. Even before this game, the Texans were in better shape going forward. But after this game, it looks a whole lot worse. I appreciate you all being with me for the post games all season. Please make sure, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. I know this is frustrating. I know we're all angry today, but tomorrow's a new day. And this year, 2024, is a new season. Don't pretend like you're not going to get into it all again this year. I saw a lot of people on Twitter earlier saying, I got to stop rooting for this team. You're not going to do it. You love this team. It's in your heart. It's passionate. We all feel that way. It's a bummer. This sucks. There's no excuse. I'm not making injury excuses. We knew that the turnovers you thought the turnovers would eventually bite them in the ass, and they did. What I didn't think was that the defense would absolutely play like shit, and they did. I did not see that coming. The turnovers hurting them, I could have seen that coming. Not being able to run, I could have seen that coming. But the defense playing like absolute trash, I did not see that coming. A lot of work to do this offseason, and we'll get to it all starting on the next podcast. Thanks, everybody, for joining me on the post-game shows all season long. But I got a lot of great content coming. We'll be doing a live podcast every Thursday. We've been doing it at 5. We may change the time slightly, so stay tuned for that. But we're doing live podcasts every Thursday, so you can join me. We'll talk Browns off season. We'll start getting into the Cavs more, and certainly to the Guardians, with spring training starting in a few weeks. But still, even though the Brown season is over, there's a lot to talk about with this team. Extensions for Berry and Stefanski, moves that need to be made. What is Watson's status? The draft, even though they still don't have a first-round pick from the Texans, there'll be a lot to get to. And free agency. Browns got more work to do. They're not as close to a championship as we thought. But they're not that far away. It just feels like it right now. Thanks, everybody, for joining me as always. Great job by Max and Monzo for producing. I'll talk to you on Tuesday. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Brought to you by Bet Rivers. Browns lose 45-14, and the freaking season is over. This sucks, but tomorrow's a new day. See you, everybody.